We can think of the omnipresent being as a television set. The television set is what is omnipresent, is what's always there, while the entertainment unfolds. Documentaries, news, films, comedy shows, total trivia unfolds. The television set is there, unchanging. It might not seem like a very exciting description of the omnipresent being, but perhaps it gives a feel for omnipresence and for the nature of what is described here as the canvas of the omnipresent being. The mind paints a picture known as the three worlds, or the whole universe, on the canvas of the omnipresent being. But we have to be careful, because the actual painter is no different here from the canvas. Since the self, on which the world is painted by the mind, pervades the whole creation, creation appears to be real. But in right inquiry, it dissolves in the self. I think one of the questions that Rama often asks is, why does this so-called delusion or illusion appear so real? And the fact is, it's because it is the self. The self is hitting itself over the head with itself. It's like saying, here I am. And it's shoving itself in our face, so to speak, or in its own face. This is what gives it its immediacy and its apparent physicality. Along with that, we get the idea that it's all split up. It's made up of bits. Yet we have this deep intuition. It's not. It's this intuition that the physicists pursue. They follow this intuition that there's a fundamental unity. It's quite fascinating, that actually. They talk in terms of a grand unified field theory. I don't know if they're still doing that. That was the last I heard. There seems to be some understanding that it all fits together into a homogeneous substratum, if you like. That's the expression that's often used in the Yoga Vasishta. There's some fundamental unity underpinning all the apparent diversity. And there is described as consciousness. It's the self. As the scientists look into it, they've touched on the role of consciousness, the importance of consciousness, but you don't need your atom smashers, your particle accelerators to find this out. You can find it out directly for yourself. Neither do they exist, nor do you exist. Why then do you grieve? Well, here we get back to the context, and we're on the battlefield with Krishna and Arjuna. And Arjuna is having a crisis of conscience, which God is wanting him to override. I've spoken about this already, and of the importance of listening to your conscience first, rather than the will of God. And I don't want to be too one-sided here. I'm sure that the battleground of the Bhagavad Gita can be fruitfully understood as the spiritual battleground, what we have to do within ourselves. The Bhagavad Gita and the characters within it represent aspects of our own psyche. Although there's no indication that it should be taken that way. But we often get this in the great religious texts. The Muslims have this thing about jihad. And the civilized Muslims, the humane ones, understand jihad as the spiritual battle. very much along the lines of what I said about the Bhagavad Gita. It's something that you're working in as part of your own spiritual unfoldment. Although again, there's nothing in the original text. I'm surmising this, I don't know for sure, because I haven't read the Quran. But I suspect there's nothing in the Quran which advises you to take it that way. It's only an interpretation, which leaves it free for people to take it literally and to use notions of jihad as justifications for performing the most obscene atrocities, for demolishing their own humanity in the name of God. You get this in the Old Testament as well, the story of Abraham and Isaac. Isaac was about to sacrifice his son to God, which is a really barbaric thing to do. We shouldn't take this kind of story literally, otherwise we become less than human. We've sacrificed our humanity. When you allow the will of God to override your own conscience. We can understand this story on a symbolic level. Even in the Dhammapada, the classic Buddhist text, it says that you should kill your father and your mother, which is quite shocking to hear from Buddhists, but it's clearly not meant to be taken literally. So we have to apply conscience here. If you're to understand that these things are not to be taken literally, you actually have to listen to your conscience and not let it be destroyed by your notions of the will of God. Let's take the Bhagavad Gita then as an allegory of the spiritual journey. And then we have to look then at our attachments, what we're attached to. We have to look within at what we're attached to. And very much it's other people, identified with notions of other people. Neither do they exist, nor do you exist. So the whole idea of personal identity is simply that. It's notional. But we have to withdraw our attention from what it's naturally directed towards. We don't want to let go, because these are our loved ones. But actually, what we normally understand by love is actually fear and insecurity and anxiety. By being able to let go, we can love them all the more unconditionally.